So I have one piston and connecting rod assembly in here. You want it at bottom dead center. It'll wrap right into the journal it needs to. Now, before we get crazy and we put the cap on and torque everything down, we need to do one more step. Now, with the mains, I measured, oh, that thing cut me. With the mains, I measured the journal and the ID, compared them to find our clearance. What we can do, instead of using all that measuring, we can use a measuring tool called Plastigage. A Plastigage is a really handy tool for measuring clearances. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to flip this engine up on its head so we can see this a little bit easier. Now we're up, easier to see. Here's our connecting rod. We're going to put some Plastigage across here, put our cap in, torque it to spec, and then take it off and see what it looks like. Now, Plastigage itself comes in these little packages like this. It has a scale on the side. That scale has 4 different squish values. Right? The first one's white, green, white, green. That's the width of the plastic itself after you squish it. Now what we can see here, or maybe not see because it's too fine, the little green tab sticking out the end of that, really fine. That's actually like a waxy, kind of a crayon-like material that we can take, hard to see, never going to focus, and put right across our journal. Now very hard to see, but I have just installed it there, right across this journal. I'm just going to drop the cap in on top. You need to be very careful not to displace it and mess everything up. So get the cap on there, start to thread it in. Okay, now I'm just going to get the torque wrench out, tighten this guy up to specification, and we'll be able to see exactly what our crush is. Now, you didn't see during that little swap over as I torqued them to spec, I'm just going to zip them off now. This guy was actually pretty light torque, it's about 30 pounds. Not very much, it's a small engine. Now you want to be careful you don't disturb it while you take it apart. So pop this out. Move our fasteners out of the way. Now what we have in here, which is also very hard to see, a little green line right across here. That's our Plastigage where it got crushed. You can see it was really thin before, now it's nice and wide. What we need to do is take our packaging and compare the thickness of this. So the thicker it is, the less clearance it has. Hard to see because it gets more squished. So see if I can come in here. That one's a little bit too big. I think this next one is just about right. So I'd say we have, I don't know, the first one maybe. About 1/1000th of an inch clearance. So I can do that without measuring the IDs and ODs of this. Now before we put it together, of course we want to wipe this off. Just comes off with a rag. So we don't have that Plastigage contaminate our system. Just wipe him out of there. Wipe it off the journal, and away we go. And now we know our clearance, we know we're in the spec.